Hello and welcome to IAMC Radio and Podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're going to explore the top news headlines for April 18th.
Sounds good. Quite a mix today.
We've got stories touching on Africa's economic future, some specific issues in Nigeria infrastructure, security, international relations, mining deals, and even social issues.
Yeah, a real snapshot. Where should we kick things off?
Let's start with Africa's economy. Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, head of the African Development Bank, had some strong words.
He did. He's calling for African nations to basically stop just exporting raw materials.
His quote was pretty direct, wasn't it? The export of raw materials is the door to poverty.
Exactly.
Right.
And the export of value-added products is the highway to wealth. He said Africa is tired of being poor.
It's a powerful statement. And it ties into the fact that Africa's share of global manufacturing is, less than 2%?
Yeah, incredibly low. Which is why initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area are so important, trying to boost that intra-African trade and value addition.
Right. He also seemed critical of the IMF's special drawing rights allocation.
He was, pointing out that Africa only got about 4.5%, something like $33 billion, out of $650 billion globally.
That does seem disproportionate.
It does. But the AFDC and the African Union are pushing to get unused SDRs rechanneled to Africa.
And there's been some progress.
Apparently, the IMF board approved a new framework for that. So, a step, maybe?
Okay. Now, shifting over to Nigeria, there's news about Innoson Motors, their head office.
Yes, in Nnewi. It seems the Anambra State Government partially demolished it.
And Innoson seems surprised.
Very. Their spokesperson, Mr. Osigwe, said there was no prior notification. Staff were apparently working inside.
Really? While the demolition was happening?
That's the report, and over 20 vehicles got trapped. They're wondering if there was some ulterior motive.
Even though Governor Saludo has generally supported Innoson, right? He uses their vehicles.
Exactly, which makes it a bit puzzling. But the State Commissioner for Works, Mr. Okoma, he has a different take.
Okay, what's the official reason?
He says the IVM building was simply one of several marked for demolition as part of a road construction project.
To ease traffic congestion.
That's the justification. He insists everyone affected was notified and marked.
And he mentions Saludo support.
Yeah, pointed out Saludo's the only governor using Made in Nigeria official vehicles and called Chief Innoson our man. So conflicting accounts there.
Definitely sounds like it. Staying in Nigeria, but moving to security concerns. There's word of a new terror group.
Yes, this is worrying. A group calling itself Mamuda has reportedly emerged in north-central Nigeria.
Where exactly?
Around Kiyinji Lake National Park seems to span parts of Kwara and Niger states. Communities like Kayama, Barutin, Babana, Wawa.
And they've been active.
Reports say they attacked a vigilante group in Kamanji. Very serious attack, possibly over 15 killed, including villagers.
That's terrible.
And the group's leader is apparently sending threatening voice notes, engaging in killings, kidnappings for ransom.
Do we know where they came from? The origins?
It's murky. Some reports link them to loggers or fishermen using the park. Others say they were pushed out of other areas and regrouped.
Any connection to existing groups?
There are claims they might have origins in Benin or Niger Republic. And a recent audio tape supposedly claims they're a moderate Islamist faction of Boko Haram. But it's all a bit unclear.
What are they reportedly doing on the ground?
A range of things, apparently. Collecting dues from herders and farmers, forced labor, kidnappings, illegal roadblocks, even regulating social stuff like parties and threatening herbalists.
Wow. Sounds like they're trying to establish control.
It does. There are even unconfirmed reports about illegal mining. They allegedly preach Islamic ethics, but also urge disloyalty to the Nigerian state.
And how are local security forces handling this?
Well, one worrying aspect is the reported loss of trust in official security. It seems some vigilantes might even cooperate with Mamuda sometimes against other bandit groups. It's a very complex, dangerous situation.
Extremely complex. Okay, let's shift to the international stage. China and Russia.
Yes, President Zelensky of Ukraine accused China of supplying weapons to Russia for the war.
That's a major accusation. How did China respond?
They denied it, flat out. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs put out a statement, I think on X, saying they haven't provided lethal weapons.
What do they say they are doing?
They affirmed commitment to peace talks, emphasized strict control over dual-use exports, and basically rejected the claims as groundless.
Do they offer any counterclaims?
They suggested Ukraine knows that most of Russia's imported military components actually come from the US and the West.
Interesting angle. Has Zelensky mentioned Chinese involvement before?
he has raised concerns. He mentioned something about 155 Chinese citizens allegedly fighting for Russia.
And now there's more concrete information.
Well, Ukraine claims to have captured 2 Chinese fighters in Donetsk. They're calling it the first official proof.
What are the details there?
Zelensky said they were part of a group of 6 recruited via social media, trained near Moscow, giving documents in payment. He sees it as a deliberate step by someone to expand the war.
Okay, quite a development to watch. Now, back to Africa, but on a more cooperative note. Nigeria and South Africa.
Yes, a positive development. They have signed a mining cooperation deal, an MOU.
What's the main goal?
To boost cooperation through investment, sharing knowledge, and transferring technology in the mining sector.
Who signed it?
Nigeria's Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, and South Africa's Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe. It happened in Abuja.
And it builds on existing ties.
Yes, under the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission framework.
What specific areas will they collaborate on?
Several key things mentioned: using drones and remote sensing for geology, sharing data through Nigeria's Geological Survey Agency, training in mineral processing, using advanced tech for elemental fingerprinting, and joint exploration for agro and energy minerals in Nigeria.
Sounds quite comprehensive.
It does. Minister Alake really emphasized the potential for industrialization, creating jobs, and sustainable development. Leveraging South Africa's tech expertise is a key part of it.
Good news. However, contrasting that, there's a concerning report from Calabar in Nigeria about a school.
Yes, Government Secondary School Atu in Calabar South. A civic tech platform, Monitoring, visited.
And what did they find?
A pretty shocking situation. Over 300 students sitting on bare floors because there are no desks, using windowsills to write.
300 students on the floor.
That's the report. And this is happening in the senatorial district represented by Senator Asukwo Ekpenyong.
Who chairs the Senate Committee on the NDDC, right? Niger Delta Development Commission.
The very same.
Right.
Which makes the lack of basic furniture quite striking.
Have there been any efforts to fix it?
Monitoring observed no efforts to provide desks or renovate. They contrasted this with the senator distributing things like sewing machines, allegedly mainly to party loyalists.
Is this a new problem?
Apparently not. There were abandoned classroom blocks under the previous governor, despite education budgets, and the current governor, Basio II, hasn't resolved these gaps yet, despite successive budgets.
Even with external support. I thought Cross River received donor funding for education.
It has. UNICEF, Save the Children, others are mentioned. There's even an education sector plan being developed, but the basics, like desks, seem missing in this case.
So what's the call to action?
Monitoring is urging Governor Otu and Senator Ekpenyong to urgently address the situation at the school. It seems fundamental.
Absolutely. Another security incident to report, this time in Kogi State.
Yes, police confirmed an attack on the family residence of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.
Where and when did this happen?
In Obeba community, Okihi local government area, on Tuesday night.
Has the senator commented?
She believes the gunman likely thought she was in town at the time.
Was anyone hurt?
Thankfully, no. Security operatives and community members apparently responded quickly and chased the attackers away.
What's being said about the motive?
Her media team described it as a calculated attempt to silence her, and they're calling for her security details to be reinstated.
A very worrying incident for anyone in public office.
Indeed. Now let's look at some state-level development news from Edo State.
Okay, what's happening there?
The state government is reaffirming its commitment to infrastructure, specifically highlighting the ongoing construction of the first flyover in Benin City.
There were rumors that it stopped.
Yes, but the Commissioner for Information dismissed those as politically motivated falsehoods.
And they're planning more.
They are. The State Executive Council just approved a second flyover bridge at the Adesua-Sapele Road intersection.
So doubling down on infrastructure.
Seems so. The commissioner emphasized Governor Okpepolo's practical approach and personal monitoring of projects. Focus on quality, reputable contractors, meeting specifications.
Any message to critics?
Pretty much condemning attempts to politicize the projects and assuring that work is ongoing, citing the contractor CCECC, and a warning that contractors not meeting standards will have their contracts revoked.
Okay, focus on delivery there. Next, a rather striking comment about social media.
Yes, from a very prominent figure. The Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Alhaji Muhammadu Sa'ad Abubakar III.
What do you say?
He described social media as a terrorist organization. A very strong description.
A terrorist organization? Why?
He was speaking about the spread of misinformation, how someone can just sit down and basically invent stories that aren't true. He feels people hide behind anonymity to create false content that fuels instability.
So it's about the impact of fake news and harmful narratives.
Precisely. And he made a direct call for Nigeria's security agencies to take urgent action to deal with this terrorist organization called social media.
That's a significant statement, reflecting deep concern about the digital information space.
It certainly is. It highlights that tension between free expression and tackling harmful content online.
Definitely a complex issue. Finally, let's touch on the international diplomatic front. Again, the U.S. and the Russia-Ukraine talks.
Right. There seems to be some pressure being applied by the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio threatened to pull out of the peace talks.
Pull out? Why?
He indicated it was a matter of days to see progress, saying the U.S. wouldn't continue for weeks and months on end. He mentioned President Trump feels strongly about it.
President Trump has been involved in mediating this, hasn't he?
Yes, allocating significant time to it. And interestingly, Trump said just last Thursday he expected to sign a deal with Kyiv soon.
A deal involving what?
Specifically mentioned granting the U.S. access to Ukraine's mineral resources, particularly rare earth minerals.
Ah, so there's an economic dimension to this diplomacy.
Seems so. Trump had apparently warned Zelensky earlier about big problems if he backed out of that deal, and he had also dismissed Zelensky's hopes for NATO membership. So multiple layers to those ongoing talks.
A lot of moving parts internationally as well. That covers our main headlines for today, I think.
Yes, a wide range, from local infrastructure and security concerns in Nigeria to major economic shifts in Africa and complex international diplomacy.
It really shows how interconnected things are, doesn't it? The resource discussion in Africa links to global trade, security issues have regional impacts, and international conflicts involve multiple players.
Absolutely. It's crucial to see these connections to really understand the landscape.
Well, hopefully exploring these headlines has given our listeners a clear picture of these important events.
Yes, plenty to keep an eye on moving forward.
Thank you for listening to the Today's Top News Headlines on IAMC Radio and Podcast.